Attila the Hun. The name still echoes through time, conjuring images of terrifying warriors and the fall of empires. He was a warlord of unmatched brutality, leading his nomadic armies across Europe, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. But Attila was more than a warrior. He was a cunning strategist, a shrewd diplomat, and a figure shrouded in myth and legend. One legend in particular has captured imaginations for centuries. The tale of Attila's sword, a blade said to have been bestowed upon him by the gods themselves. Was this weapon real, a tangible symbol of his power? Or was it a myth, crafted to solidify his reign and strike fear into the hearts of his enemies? To understand the legend of the sword, we must first understand the man who wielded it. Attila was born into a world of nomadic tribes, constantly vying for power on the vast Eurasian steppe. He inherited the leadership of the Huns, a fierce and highly mobile warrior culture, and quickly consolidated his power, uniting disparate tribes under his banner. Attila's ambition knew no bounds. He envisioned a Hunnic empire stretching across Europe, and he was ruthless in his pursuit of this vision. His armies, a fearsome spectacle of mounted archers and swift cavalry, swept across the continent, sacking cities and crushing armies that stood in their path. Central to Attila's reign of terror was the legend of his sword. The story, as it was told, claimed that a shepherd tending his flock stumbled upon a glinting object in the field. As he drew closer, he unearthed a magnificent sword, unlike any he had ever seen. Word of the discovery reached Attila, who recognized the sword as a divine gift, a symbol of his destiny to rule. It was said that the sword glowed with an eerie light and possessed supernatural sharpness, capable of cleaving through enemy armor as if it were butter. This weapon, bestowed upon him by the heavens, became a powerful symbol of Attila's divine right to rule. The impact of the sword legend was undeniable. Attila's enemies, already terrified by the ferocity of his warriors, saw the sword as a manifestation of his divine power. It fueled their fear, making Attila seem invincible, an instrument of destiny. The sword also served as a powerful tool for Attila's own people. It reinforced their belief in his leadership, solidifying their loyalty, and, bolstering their morale in the face of battle. Whether the sword was a divinely crafted artifact, or a masterfully crafted piece of propaganda, is a question that continues to intrigue historians. To understand the significance of the sword, we must delve into the spiritual beliefs of the Huns. They were a people deeply connected to the natural world, worshipping a pantheon of gods and spirits. Weapons, particularly swords, held a special significance in their culture. They were not mere instruments of war, but were believed to be imbued with a spirit, a power that could influence the fate of battles and the destiny of men. In this context, Attila's sword, whether real or mythical, becomes more than just a weapon. It becomes a conduit to the divine, a symbol of the connection between the earthly and the supernatural. Gap 2S. As centuries passed, the legend of Attila's sword grew far beyond the borders of the Hunnic Empire. Chroniclers and storytellers across Europe wove tales of the blade's unmatched power and its mysterious origins. Some claimed it was forged by the gods themselves, lost and found by fate, destined to shape the fate of empires. Gap 1S. In medieval Europe, the myth of Attila's sword became intertwined with other legendary weapons, inspiring stories of Excalibur and the swords of kings and conquerors. The idea that a single blade could hold the destiny of nations captured the imagination of poets, artists, and rulers alike. Gap 1S. Even today, historians debate the truth behind the myth. Was Attila's sword a real artifact or merely a symbol crafted to legitimize his rule and strike fear into the hearts of his enemies? Regardless of its physical existence, the cultural impact of the sword endures. It remains a powerful symbol of authority, destiny, and the mysterious forces that shape our world. Gap 2S. The story of Attila's sword reminds us that legends are not just about the past. They continue to shape how we understand power, faith, and the enduring allure of the unknown. Gap 2S. In the modern era, the legend of Attila's sword has inspired more than just stories. It has ignited a quest among archaeologists, treasure hunters, and historians to uncover the truth behind the myth. Across the vast plains of Hungary, the Carpathian Basin, and the ancient battlefields of Europe, countless expeditions have set out in search of the fabled blade. Gap 1S. Some claim to have found clues, fragments of iron, ornate hilts, or ancient tombs rumored to be Attila's final resting place. Yet, each discovery has raised more questions than answers. In the late 19th century, a Hungarian nobleman announced he had unearthed the legendary sword, only for experts to later reveal it as a clever forgery. Other supposed finds have been exposed as ceremonial weapons from later centuries, their origins muddled by time and wishful thinking. Gap 1S. Despite these setbacks, the search continues. Advanced technology, ground-penetrating radar, DNA analysis, and digital mapping has brought new hope to those determined to solve the mystery. But so far, the true sword of Attila remains elusive, hidden by the sands of history, or perhaps lost forever. Gap 1S. For some, the ongoing hunt is more than a pursuit of treasure. It is a journey into the heart of legend, a testament to humanity's enduring fascination with the past and the power of myth. As long as the story of Attila's sword endures, so too will the hope that one day its secrets might finally be revealed. Gap 2S. Beyond the dusty trails of treasure hunters and the measured steps of historians, Attila's sword has carved a path through the world of imagination. For centuries, artists, writers, and poets have been captivated by the legend, weaving it into the fabric of their creations. Illuminated manuscripts from the Middle Ages depict Attila brandishing a blade wreathed in flames, a symbol of fear and divine wrath. In Renaissance paintings, the sword shines as both a tool of conquest and a relic of destiny, its image shaped by the hopes and fears of each generation. Gap 1S. Epic poems and heroic tales have reimagined the sword as a vessel of supernatural power, capable of granting victory or destruction. In the 19th century, Romantic writers saw it as a metaphor for the unstoppable force of history, while modern novels and films reframe the blade as a lost artifact, waiting to be rediscovered by those brave or foolish enough to seek it. Gap 1S. Even today, Attila's sword appears in comics, video games, and digital art, its legend evolving with each retelling. In every depiction, the blade is more than mere metal. It is a mirror reflecting the fears, dreams, and ambitions of humanity. Through each brushstroke and written word, the spirit of Attila's sword endures, proving that some myths are too powerful to ever fade away. Across the ancient world, swords were never just weapons. They were potent symbols, woven into the very identity of warrior cultures. For the Huns, as for many nomadic tribes, the sword embodied far more than martial skill. It was a sign of authority, a badge of honor, and a bridge between the earthly and the divine. In Hun society, the forging of a sword was a sacred act. Blacksmiths were revered, seen as wielders of elemental power, transforming iron into instruments of fate. The sword itself was often believed to contain a spirit, a guardian that watched over its bearer in battle. This belief echoed in rituals. Before major campaigns, Hun leaders would plunge their blades into the earth, offering them to the gods of war and the spirits of the land. The symbolism of the sword extended beyond the battlefield. In peace, the blade was a mark of leadership, carried by chieftains during council and ceremony. Its very presence commanded respect, a silent reminder of promises made and oaths sworn. The sword's double edge represented life and death, justice and vengeance, always balanced in the hand of its wielder. When Attila rose to power, he wielded his legendary sword not only as an instrument of conquest, but as a powerful symbol. To his followers, it was proof of divine favor. To his enemies, a warning that the gods themselves stood behind the Hun horde. Through the blade, the Huns connected their mortal ambitions to an unbroken chain of myth and meaning, a tradition shared by countless warrior cultures, but made unforgettable in the legend of Attila's sword. Across continents and centuries, the story of Attila's sword echoes through the annals of myth and history, yet it is far from alone. Legendary weapons have always captured the human imagination, their tales woven into the fabric of entire civilizations. From King Arthur's Excalibur to the Japanese Kusanagi no Tsurugi, these blades share a common thread. They are more than mere tools of war. Excalibur, drawn from stone or bestowed by the Lady of the Lake, symbolized divine kingship and the promise of unity for Britain. Like Attila's blade, it was seen as a gift from higher powers, conferring legitimacy and strength upon its bearer. The sword Kusanagi, one of Japan's 3 imperial regalia, was said to control the wind itself and became a sacred emblem of imperial authority. In Norse legend, the sword Gram, wielded by Sigurd, was forged by the gods and destined to slay dragons. In India, the sword of Chandrahasa was believed to bring victory and protection to its possessor, a sign of celestial favor. Each of these weapons, like Attila's, became a vessel for the hopes, fears, and aspirations of their people. What binds these stories together is the belief that a blade can be more than steel. It can embody the spirit of a nation, the will of the gods, and the destiny of a leader. Through shared myths of legendary swords, humanity reveals its longing for power, justice, and the touch of the divine. Attila's sword stands among these mythic peers, a reminder that the legends we forge endure long after the echo of battle has faded. Throughout history, the line between myth and reality has often blurred, especially when it comes to the right to rule. Rulers have long relied on legends, not just as stories, but as powerful tools to legitimize their authority, unite their people, and even intimidate their enemies. For Attila, the legend of his sword was more than a tale, it was a foundation for his power. The story of a divine blade, said to be gifted by the gods themselves, gave Attila a mantle of destiny. In the eyes of his followers, he was not merely a king but a chosen instrument of fate, the scourge of God. This myth transformed his conquests from acts of ambition into fulfillments of prophecy. As word of the sword spread, so did Attila's reputation, growing larger than life and striking fear across Europe. But Attila was far from alone in wielding myth as a weapon. From Rome's claim of descent from Aeneas to the divine right of kings in medieval Europe, rulers everywhere have woven their own stories of celestial favor and supernatural legitimacy. These myths serve to bind empires together, inspire loyalty, and justify the exercise of power. In Attila's case, the legend of his sword helped forge an identity for the Huns, turning disparate tribes into a formidable force united under a leader touched by the divine. The power of myth, as Attila understood, is not just in the telling, but in the believing. Through legend, a ruler's authority becomes unassailable, echoing through generations long after the steel has rusted away. But where did the legend of Attila's sword truly begin? To separate fact from fable, historians have scoured ancient texts and archaeological evidence, searching for clues behind the myth. Some believe the story originated with the Scythians, nomadic horsemen whose own legends spoke of a sacred sword bestowed by the gods, a symbol of kingship passed down through generations. Others point to the Roman historian Priscus, who recorded that Attila received a mysterious blade from a shepherd who found it after his herd stumbled upon the weapon. Was this sword of Mars a priceless relic, or simply a finely crafted saber elevated by rumor and ambition? Archaeological discoveries in the Eurasian steppes reveal that ornate swords, richly decorated and imbued with ritual significance, were often buried with elite warriors. These weapons were more than instruments of war. They were badges of status and, perhaps, objects of worship. The fusion of these traditions with Attila's own exploits may have given rise to the enduring tale. Some scholars suggest that the legend was amplified by Attila's enemies who saw in his conquests not just military might, but supernatural menace. By the time chroniclers picked up their pens, the sword had become a symbol, part propaganda, part warning, and entirely unforgettable. In the end, the true origins of Attila's sword may be lost to time, buried beneath layers of myth, memory, and political necessity. Yet by piecing together these fragments, we gain a clearer picture of how a simple blade could become the stuff of legend, and how history itself is often forged at the intersection of reality and imagination. Centuries after Attila's reign, the legend of his sword continues to cut through the fabric of our imaginations, sharper than ever in the arenas of modern popular culture. From the silver screen to the digital realms of video games, echoes of the Sword of Mars inspire new stories, new heroes, and new villains. In Hollywood, the myth has been reimagined time and again. Epic films and fantasy sagas draw upon the image of a powerful warlord wielding a blade bestowed by the gods, sometimes overtly referencing Attila, and sometimes weaving his legend into entirely new worlds. The sword's aura of invincibility and its connection to divine right remain potent symbols, shaping the destinies of cinematic conquerors and reluctant kings alike. Meanwhile, in the world of games, Attila's sword has become an artifact to be sought, fought over, and revered. Strategy games and role-playing adventures often feature legendary weapons inspired by his blade, objects that grant immense power, shift the tide of battle, and tempt players with the promise of ultimate authority. Whether as a collectible relic or a quest's final reward, the mythic sword bridges the gap between ancient history and interactive storytelling. Even in literature, comics, and television, the shadow of Attila's sword looms large. Writers draw upon its legend to explore themes of ambition, destiny, and the burdens of leadership. The sword becomes a metaphor for the weight of history and the enduring human fascination with objects that promise greatness. at a price. In this way, Attila's sword is continually reforged in the fires of our collective imagination. Its legend adapts to new genres and new generations, proving that some myths are too powerful to be buried by time. The blade lives on, not just as a relic of the past, but as an inspiration for every story that dares to ask, what if you held the power to change the world? Even in the halls of academia, the allure of Attila's sword refuses to fade. Today's historians, archaeologists, and mythologists continue to chase its shadow, piecing together fragments of fact, fiction, and folklore. The legend of the Sword of Mars is more than a story. It's a puzzle that bridges the worlds of history and myth, inviting new interpretations with every generation. Researchers pore over ancient texts, searching for clues in chronicles, sagas, and royal records. Some propose that the sword was a real artifact, a ceremonial blade perhaps wielded by Attila to legitimize his rule. Others argue it was always a metaphor, a symbol crafted by storytellers to explain his meteoric rise and near-mythical power. Modern scholarship also explores the broader context, how the myth of Attila's sword fits into a tapestry of legendary weapons from across cultures. By comparing stories, scholars trace patterns of power, authority, and the supernatural, revealing how societies use such legends to understand leadership, fate, and the human desire for greatness. Yet, for all the research, the sword's true origin remains elusive. Each new discovery raises fresh questions, fueling debates in journals, conferences, and classrooms. The pursuit itself becomes part of the legend, a testament to our enduring fascination with Attila, his blade, and the mysteries they represent. In this way, the story of Attila's sword isn't just preserved by pop culture, but continually re-examined, reinterpreted, and reimagined by those dedicated to uncovering the truths hidden in its shadow. As we reach the end of our journey, the saga of Attila's sword remains suspended between myth and reality. We've traced its legend from ancient battlefields to modern scholarship, unraveling stories of divine gifts, symbols of authority, and the tantalizing possibility of a real blade lost to time. Some see the sword as a tangible relic, a weapon that once gleamed in Attila's grasp, shaping the destiny of empires. Others view it as pure legend, a narrative forged to explain the rise of a warlord who seemed almost supernatural in his power. Throughout history, the sword has served as both a tool and a totem, blurring the line between fact and fable. It represents the hopes, fears, and ambitions of those who wielded it, and of those who told its story. Whether Attila's sword was ever real, or always a myth, may never be answered with certainty. But perhaps that is its true power, to inspire, to provoke debate, and to keep the spirit of legend alive across the centuries. In the end, Attila's sword is more than a lost artifact. It is a mirror, reflecting our own fascination with greatness, mystery, and the stories we tell to make sense of the world. The legend endures not because of what it was, but because of what it means to us even now. Even as historians sift through facts and artifacts, the legend of Attila's sword has taken on a life of its own, woven deeply into the tapestry of folklore and the modern imagination. Across Europe and Central Asia, tales of a mighty blade, sometimes buried beneath ancient ruins, sometimes glinting in the hands of a spectral warrior, continue to haunt fireside stories and local legends. In Hungary, some whisper that the sword's spirit protects the land, while others claim it reappears to herald times of great upheaval. Writers, artists, and filmmakers draw upon these echoes, reimagining Attila's sword as everything from a cursed relic to a symbol of unity or rebellion. In novels and comics, the blade is reborn as a quest object, its power and origins shifting to suit each new age. Video games and fantasy epics transform it into a weapon of destiny, inviting new generations to grapple with the same mysteries that captivated ancient chroniclers. Through these retellings, the sword's legend evolves, no longer bound by history, but alive in the collective consciousness. It becomes a vessel for our fears and hopes, a reminder that some stories are too powerful to fade. In the end, Attila's sword is not just a relic of the past, but a living myth, ever reshaped by the dreams and imaginations of those who dare to tell its tale. Beneath the legends and the lore, a quieter quest persists, one grounded in mud, metal, and the patient work of archaeologists. For generations, seekers have scoured the ancient battlefields, burial mounds, and riverbanks of Eastern Europe, hoping to uncover the true resting place of Attila's fabled sword. Some follow medieval maps and cryptic chronicles tracing rumors of a hidden tomb or a lost royal hoard. Others turn to cutting-edge technology, ground-penetrating radar, drone surveys, and forensic analysis of unearthed weapons. In recent decades, a handful of intriguing discoveries have stirred debate. In Hungary, a richly decorated sword unearthed from a chieftain's grave sparked headlines, though experts quickly cautioned that its origins post-date Attila by centuries. Elsewhere, fragments of steppe-era blades adorned with gold and intricate patterns fuel speculation. Are these the remnants of the Huns, or evidence of later imitators inspired by the legend? Theories abound. Some suggest that Attila's sword was deliberately hidden to prevent its power from falling into enemy hands. Others propose it was melted down, recast into new weapons, or perhaps spirited away to distant lands by fleeing followers. Yet, despite decades of searching, no artifact has been definitively linked to the Scourge of God. Still, the search continues, part history, part hope. Each new discovery, whether a rusted blade or a golden hilt, brings us closer to understanding the world Attila once ruled. And as long as the earth holds its secrets, the dream of unearthing the sword endures, a tantalizing promise that history and legend might one day meet. Across centuries and civilizations, the sword has been more than a weapon. It is a symbol of leadership, justice, and divine authority. In the hands of a ruler, a blade becomes a scepter, its gleaming edge embodying the right to rule and the power to shape destinies. From the legendary Excalibur of Arthurian myth, which could only be drawn by the true king, to the Japanese Kusanagi no Tsurugi, a sacred imperial regalia, swords have stood at the heart of royal legitimacy. Attila's sword, steeped in both fear and reverence, was no exception. For his followers, it was a sign that the heavens favored their king, a talisman that conferred not only military might, but also a cosmic mandate. The legend of the Sword of Mars, bestowed by the gods and wielded by Attila, placed him among a mythic brotherhood of conquerors whose blades blurred the line between history and divinity. But how does Attila's sword compare to other legendary blades? Unlike Excalibur, born from stone and water, or the Sword of Charlemagne linked to Christian relics, Attila's blade was a relic of the steppe, raw, unyielding, and mysterious. It was not just a badge of kingship but a living symbol of conquest and chaos, inspiring both awe and terror. In analyzing these swords, we see a pattern. The blade is never just metal. It is a story, a claim, a promise. It binds ruler to realm, myth to memory. Attila's sword, whether lost or found, remains an enduring emblem of the ancient truth that power is as much about perception as it is about steel. And so, the legend lives on, not only in the earth, but in the very idea of what it means to rule. From the yellowed pages of ancient chronicles to the flicker of modern cinema screens, the legend of Attila's sword has carved its way into the heart of storytelling. Writers, filmmakers, and artists have been drawn to the enigmatic blade, weaving it into tales that stretch far beyond the boundaries of history. In novels and epic poems, Attila's sword is often cast as a cursed relic, its power intoxicating, its legacy dangerous. Some stories imagine it as a prize hunted by adventurers, while others paint it as the source of Attila's unrelenting ambition and eventual downfall. On screen, the sword takes on new forms with every adaptation. In historical dramas, it gleams in the torchlight of smoky war tents, a silent witness to the rise and fall of empires. Fantasy films, meanwhile, reimagine the blade as a magical artifact, its aura shifting between menace and salvation. Even in comic books and video games, Attila's sword is reborn, sometimes as a weapon of ultimate destruction, sometimes as a key to unlocking forgotten worlds. This enduring fascination is more than just spectacle. The Sword of Attila, as reimagined in popular culture, stands as a mirror reflecting our own hopes, fears, and questions about power. Is it destiny that chooses the wielder, or the wielder who forges destiny? Every retelling adds a new layer to the myth, ensuring that Attila's sword remains not just a relic of the past, but a living legend, forever reforged in the fires of imagination. Across centuries and civilizations, the legend of Attila's sword endures, its true form forever cloaked in shadow, its meaning shifting with every retelling. Historians sift through ancient texts and fragments of folklore, piecing together clues, yet the sword remains elusive. Was it a real weapon, a lost artifact, or a symbol crafted by storytellers to embody the might of a conqueror? In the hazy borderlands between fact and fable, Attila's sword stands as a testament to the power of myth. It is a relic that transcends the boundaries of time, morphing from a feared weapon on the battlefield to a vessel of legend, hope, and caution in the collective imagination. For some, it represents the divine right to rule. For others, the danger of unchecked ambition. Its story is less about the blade itself and more about what it has come to represent: authority, fate, and the fragile line between hero and villain. As new generations seek out the truth, Attila's sword remains unsolved and undiminished, a riddle that calls to historians, artists, and dreamers alike. In the end, perhaps its greatest power lies not in steel or blood, but in its ability to inspire wonder and curiosity, a mystery that will echo through the ages, as sharp and enduring as the blade itself. But the story of Attila's sword doesn't end with myth or memory. Across the centuries, the legend has drawn not only scholars and storytellers, but self-proclaimed guardians, secret societies, and ambitious rulers, each claiming a connection to the fabled blade. In medieval courts, relic hunters whispered of hidden vaults and ancient oaths, while shadowy brotherhoods spun tales of their sacred duty to protect, or one day reveal the sword's resting place. From the Ottoman sultans to the Habsburg emperors, rulers have coveted the sword's supposed power, forging replicas and weaving its legend into their own claims of legitimacy. In the 19th century, as Europe's fascination with lost treasures grew, adventurers and charlatans alike emerged, presenting ornate swords and elaborate stories, each hoping to pass their blade off as Attila's own. Yet with every new claimant, the true sword slipped further into legend, its identity blurred, its location ever more uncertain. Some say the real blade lies buried in a forgotten tomb guarded by ancient curses. Others believe it was melted down, its essence scattered in the swords of later kings. And still, there are those who insist the sword's power endures, passed down in secret, waiting for a worthy hand. In tracing the journey of Attila's sword through the hands of guardians and pretenders, we glimpse not just a weapon, but a story constantly reborn, shaped by ambition, faith, and the unending human hunger for the extraordinary. As long as there are those who seek it, the legend of Attila's sword will never truly be lost. Even in the present day, the legend of Attila's sword refuses to rest. From the shadowy vaults of European museums to the depths of online forums, whispers continue, fueling new theories, sightings, and tantalizing clues. In the early 20th century, rumors circulated of a Hungarian noble family secretly safeguarding a sword with strange, ancient markings. Decades later, Cold War intelligence operatives reportedly tracked a royal blade moving through black market auctions, sparking speculation that Attila's sword had resurfaced, only to vanish again into obscurity. In recent years, metal detectorists in the steppes of Eastern Europe have unearthed fragments of iron and gold, some claiming these to be pieces of the legendary blade. Meanwhile, digital sleuths pore over satellite images and ancient maps, searching for clues to a forgotten burial mound or hidden chamber. Each discovery, each rumor, adds another layer to the mystery, blurring the line between fact and fantasy. But perhaps the greatest enigma of all is not whether the sword still exists, but why its legend endures. Is it the hope of finding lost power, the thrill of chasing an unsolved mystery, or is the sword itself now less an object and more a symbol, its true magic lying in the stories we continue to tell, and the secrets still waiting to be uncovered? As the whispers grow and new mysteries emerge, Attila's sword remains as elusive as ever, calling to dreamers, seekers, and storytellers, daring them to uncover the truth behind the legend. But every legend casts a shadow, and Attila's sword is no exception. Beyond the tangible searches and whispered sightings, darker tales swirl through history, stories of curses, prophecies, and the peril that follows those who dare to claim the blade. Medieval chroniclers warned that the sword was not just a symbol of conquest, but a harbinger of doom for those unworthy to wield it. Some say that every would-be owner since Attila has met with misfortune, lost empires, sudden betrayals, or even madness. In the Ottoman era, rumors spread of a sultan's advisor who vanished after boasting of possessing the blade. In World War II, Nazi treasure hunters obsessed over the sword, only to be met with disaster and defeat. Whispers of a prophecy persist in Hungarian folklore, that the sword will return in an hour of great need, but only at a steep price. Others believe the blade is cursed to bring ruin to any ruler who seeks to use its power for personal gain. Even today, some researchers and collectors claim to feel a strange unease when searching for the legendary weapon. Dreams of fire and chaos, or an inexplicable sense of dread. Whether these are the echoes of ancient warnings or the power of suggestion, one thing is clear: the shadow of Attila's sword is as potent as its myth. In the end, perhaps the true legacy of the blade is not just in its promise of power, but in the cautionary tales it leaves behind, reminding us that the pursuit of greatness sometimes comes at a cost, and that some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved. But the legend of Attila's sword doesn't end with curses or prophecies. Some stories speak of those who have dedicated their lives to guarding, hiding, or even seeking the blade, secret societies whose origins stretch back centuries. In the shadowy corners of European history, whispers tell of clandestine brotherhoods, knights, and scholars who believe themselves the true heirs of the blade's legacy. According to some accounts, medieval orders, descendants of Attila's own warriors, swore a vow to protect the sword from falling into the wrong hands. Their symbols, etched into forgotten ruins and hidden manuscripts, hint at a secret network that spanned empires and ages. In the 19th century, rumors swirled of a Hungarian noble family entrusted with the blade, passing its location only to the most trusted heir generation after generation. In more recent decades, conspiracy theories have flourished. Some believe that global power struggles are influenced by hidden factions seeking to claim or conceal Attila's sword, convinced that its possession could tip the scales of history. Tales persist of coded messages, lost maps, and enigmatic artifacts, each pointing to a new guardian or a fresh pretender to the blade. Whether these secret societies are real or imagined, their stories add yet another layer to the mythos. The idea that the sword's greatest power lies not in the hands of a conqueror but in the shadows, guarded, sought, and forever just out of reach. In this web of secrecy and intrigue, the legend of Attila's sword continues to evolve, inviting each new generation to wonder, who truly holds the key to its fate? As the world hurtles into the digital age, the legend of Attila's sword finds new life beyond ancient manuscripts and secret societies. In recent years, the quest for the blade has taken an unexpected turn, onto the screens of computers, phones, and tablets around the globe. Online forums buzz with theories, interactive maps, and cryptic clues as amateur sleuths and digital treasure hunters join the centuries-old search. Virtual reality experiences invite users to step into the shoes of past seekers, retracing the supposed paths of Attila's armies, or exploring simulated ruins where the sword might lie hidden. Social media groups debate the meaning of newly discovered symbols and share images of mysterious artifacts, some genuine, some the clever work of modern mythmakers. Meanwhile, new legends are born in the digital ether. Stories of encrypted files, blockchain-locked secrets, and geocached relics blend ancient enigma with cutting-edge technology. Some claim that the true heirs of the blade have migrated online, using the anonymity of cyberspace to continue their guardianship in secret. Others believe the sword itself is less a physical object now and more a symbol, a password, a code, a digital key that could unlock untold power in the right hands. In this ever-expanding digital landscape, the myth of Attila's sword is transformed, no longer bound by borders or eras, but alive in the imagination of a global community. The blade's legend persists, evolving with each new generation of seekers, hackers, and storytellers, forever inviting the question, is the true legacy of Attila's sword found in metal and blood, or in the stories we continue to forge together? As the legend of Attila's sword surges through the digital age, one question lingers. What comes next? Gazing into the future, the myth of the blade refuses to fade, instead sparking visions of what it might become in centuries yet to come. Futurists and storytellers alike speculate, will Attila's sword inspire new myths in worlds beyond our own? In speculative fiction and futuristic narratives, the sword is reimagined as a relic of lost empires on distant planets, or as an artifact wielded by cybernetic conquerors in battles across the stars. Some envision the blade encoded in the DNA of artificial intelligences, its legend morphing into a digital prophecy, one that warns of the return of an unstoppable warrior, blade in hand, when the world teeters on the brink of chaos. Artists craft virtual exhibitions where the sword's aura weaves through augmented realities, allowing new generations to encounter the myth in ways once unimaginable. In these visions, the blade transcends both its physical form and its digital avatars, becoming a universal symbol of ambition, of power, and of the eternal human hunger for meaning. Even as technology reshapes how we share and shape our stories, Attila's sword endures, its legend adapting to every new medium and every new epoch. In the myths of tomorrow, the blade's shadow stretches onward, reminding us that some stories, like the sword itself, are truly timeless. But what if Attila's sword held secrets far deeper than legend and lore? As the centuries turn and the myth evolves, a new theory emerges among cryptologists and historians, that the blade itself was more than a symbol of power. It was a vessel for hidden messages, a cipher embedded within its very design. Some believe that the patterns engraved along its hilt and blade were not merely decorative, but ancient codes. messages meant only for those worthy, or warnings to future generations. In the shadows of forgotten libraries and private collections, researchers pore over sketches, tracing the subtle symmetries and geometric motifs, searching for a language lost to time. Stories surface of secret brotherhoods, sworn to protect the knowledge encoded within the sword, guardians who pass down cryptic riddles and rituals, each linked to the blade's mysterious inscriptions. In certain tales, the sword's true power was not in its steel, but in the wisdom it concealed. Maps to hidden treasures, prophecies of doom, or even instructions for forging alliances among warring tribes. Today, with advanced imaging and digital analysis, scholars attempt to reconstruct these lost codes, hoping to unveil the truth behind the sword's silent message. Yet for every answer uncovered, new questions arise. Was Attila's sword a key to an ancient conspiracy, a warning encrypted in steel, or simply a mirror reflecting our endless fascination with secrets? As the legend of Attila's sword continues to evolve, so too does the belief that its greatest mysteries still lie hidden, waiting for a new generation of seekers to crack the code and reveal the final truth behind the blade's enduring enigma. But the legend of Attila's sword doesn't end with hidden codes or ancient conspiracies. As night falls and shadows lengthen, the blade emerges in a new realm, one of ghost stories and urban legends whispered across generations. In the dark corners of Eastern Europe, villagers speak of a phantom blade that appears beneath moonlit skies, its edge glowing with an eerie, otherworldly light. Some say the sword is carried by the restless spirit of Attila himself, doomed to wander the earth in search of his lost power. Others claim that those who see the spectral weapon are destined for greatness, or for ruin. Folklorists have catalogued chilling tales of travelers who vanish near forgotten battlefields, with only strange, sword-shaped scorch marks left behind. In remote monasteries, monks recount visions of a shadowy figure wielding a blade that cleaves reality itself, opening portals to realms unknown. Modern urban legends tell of digital glitches and mysterious artifacts in satellite images, ghostly lines traced across the landscape, said to map the path of the missing sword. These stories, whether born of fear, hope, or simple imagination, add a supernatural layer to the myth. They remind us that Attila's sword is not just a relic or a riddle, but a living legend, one that haunts the borderlands between history and the unknown. As long as the blade remains lost, its phantom will linger, flickering in the dreams of those who still seek its secrets. As the legend of Attila's sword echoes through time, its story stretches beyond the earth itself. Ancient skywatchers once traced constellations that mirrored the blade's silhouette, believing the weapon was forged from a fallen star. In some cultures, the sword's celestial twin is said to blaze in the night sky, heralding upheaval or the birth of great leaders. Modern astronomers have even drawn parallels between meteorite impacts and the mythic origins of divine swords, fueling speculation that Attila's blade might have been crafted from cosmic metal. Whether in folklore or astrophysics, the sword's legacy reaches ever upward, reminding us that some legends are truly written in the stars. Scene 30, The Blade's Double, Tales of Twin Swords and Rival Kings. Emotion 3, music dramatic, suspenseful, ancient. But what if Attila's sword was never truly unique? Across Eurasia, stories surface of twin blades, one of light, one of darkness, locked in an eternal struggle. Medieval chroniclers speak of rival kings, each wielding a sword said to be the true scourge of God. These tales hint at secret forges, lost heirs, and battles that shape the fate of empires. Whether a poetic metaphor or a hint of hidden history, the myth of the twin swords invites us to question, was Attila's power ever truly his alone? Scene 31, The Sword's Curse, Tragedies and Triumphs. Linked to the blade emotion, for music ominous, melancholic, epic. For every tale of victory, there is a shadow of loss. Legends warn that those who seek Attila's sword are doomed to face tragedy, betrayal, madness, or untimely death. Some rulers who claimed the blade met sudden downfalls, while others rose from obscurity only to vanish mysteriously. In folk memory, the sword is both a blessing and a curse, a double-edged legacy that tests the worth of those who dare to wield it. Scene 32, The Blade in the Blood, Genealogy, Prophecy, and the Chosen Heir. Emotion 3, music ancestral, suspenseful, mystical. From royal courts to distant villages, whispers persist of a bloodline bound to the sword. Prophecies tell of a chosen heir, descended from Attila or an ancient god, destined to reclaim the blade in an hour of great need. Genealogists and occultists alike have hunted for clues in ancient texts and DNA records, hoping to reveal the next true bearer. The sword's legend thus becomes a story of lineage, destiny, and the power that courses through generations. Scene 33, the sword's code, hidden messages in music, art, and architecture. Emotion 2, music, enigmatic, baroque, investigative. The mystery of Attila's sword is woven into more than just stories. Across Europe, cryptic motifs appear in cathedral carvings, folk songs, and even the blueprints of ancient fortresses. Some believe these are secret codes, clues left by guardians of the blade, or warnings to those who would misuse its power. As researchers decode these patterns, new theories arise. Could the true location of the sword be hidden in plain sight, waiting for those with eyes to see? Scene 34, the sword's reflection, Attila's blade in psychology and collective memory. Emotion 2. Music, contemplative, subtle, atmospheric, beyond myth and metal. The sword's image lingers in the collective mind. Psychologists see it as a symbol of the human drive for dominance, justice, or transformation. In dreams and nightmares, people still encounter the blade, sometimes as a weapon, sometimes as a key. The enduring fascination with Attila's sword reveals as much about us as it does about history, reflecting our deepest fears and desires. Scene 35, the digital blade, Attila's sword in gaming and virtual worlds. Emotion 3, music, energetic, digital, adventurous. In the digital age, the legend takes on new life. Video games, virtual reality quests, and online communities have reimagined Attila's sword as a prize to be won, a puzzle to be solved, or a force to be reckoned with. Players from around the world join the hunt, blurring the line between fantasy and reality. In this new frontier, the myth adapts and evolves, proving that even an ancient legend can find a home in the virtual world. Scene 36, the last legend, will the sword ever be found? Emotion 5, music, hopeful, introspective, cinematic. As our journey draws to a close, one question remains: will Attila's sword ever be found? Or is its true power not in metal and stone but in the stories we share? The search continues in archives, on dig sites, in the dreams of those who yearn for answers. Whether lost forever or waiting to be discovered, the sword endures as a beacon for seekers and storytellers alike. A final legend, forever just beyond our grasp.